Great.
Yeah,
Good place to be.
Yes, I'm here by choice.
I love it here. I actually lived here summer of '94 and had a great time.
You're rolling, Bobbie, on a two-shot, and we'll get one question.
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, Michael, welcome to Dallas.
Thanks a lot, Bobbie.
And I have to tell you, I just love this film.
All right, thank you.
I'm not a huge baseball fan. I kind of, keep up with it, especially the Rangers. But, I think what's so wonderful about the film, you don't have to be a baseball fan to enjoy this film.
Right, yeah, it's not really a baseball movie. I mean, the whole thing was touched off by something that took place during a baseball game. But I mean, this could have been a diamond or, a rare painting. It just happened to be something very valuable that people were fighting over and going to court over. But for me, as a longtime baseball fan, it actually did make it even that much more interesting that it was this historic baseball. But I definitely would want non-baseball fans to definitely appreciate the film for the qualities that a non-fan would.
Just.
Is there any chance we could do that question over?
Sure.
Okay, thanks a lot.
The same question over.
Yeah, I feel like I stumbled all over that.
Okay, it sounded okay to me, but we'll where do you want to pick it up?
I guess, what is it? Oh, you were talking about not being a baseball fan.
Yes. You don't have to be a baseball fan to enjoy Up for Grabs.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that because, I mean, yeah, I've been a baseball fan my whole life, but this is really not a baseball movie. You can't really tell this story without having a little bit of baseball in it, but really this is it's a valuable piece of history that two guys were fighting over. They're basically chasing after an elusive pot of gold and, basically changing their lives over a baseball. But it's really not about the sport. It's more, another sport, greed, and filing lawsuits and things like that, getting rich quick. So there's a lot of Americana, and it's really not, it's not for fans, it's more just for people who are interested in the behavior of human beings.
It took place in 2001 in San Francisco.
That's right.
And then it was resolved in 2004, 2003.
Yeah, that's right.
2003 it was resolved.
Yeah, it took a long time. You'd think something like this would have been so easy to settle, but it just went on, and the plaintiff and defendant just weren't talking to each other, and it became this huge deal, which is always really interesting to me, is the fact that such a trivial matter, just this little round object covered in cowhide, would be able to change people's lives and get all the media attention that it got, especially so soon after September 11th, which is actually when Bonds hit number 73. And unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes when people have a chance to get rich.
How did you come to do the documentary?
I was actually just paying attention to what Bonds was doing as a Giants fan at the time, and I read in the paper the next morning after he set the record that there were these two fans fighting over the ball, and that there was a videotape that was shot out there, which was later to be known as the Keppel tape, the key evidence in the trial, and there were all these witnesses, and I just thought, this could make for a great story, for a documentary. And I was actually writing a screenplay at the time, but when the ball got locked in a safe deposit box by a judge, and the ball was put under restraining order. I didn't even know inanimate objects could be put under restraining order. That was it. I just dropped everything. I had never made a film before, but I just decided this was my opportunity, and I started contacting anyone who was tied to the ball in any way. And it was something that just brought all of these people together from this one strange incident. And I started renting equipment and contacting people over the internet that could help me make the film, and just went after it.
Then you had to get the film from the NBC station there. They owned the film, right?
That's right. The actual footage that was shot by Josh Keppel out in the stands that day, we had to work with NBC and Major League Baseball to get access to that footage. And Josh was very helpful. He ended up becoming my director of photography. He's a really good shooter, and the fact that he was part of the story and was out there when it happened. It just made for a perfect match.
You had then to recreate some of it, didn't you?
Yeah, well, no, we kind of just followed the story as it happened. So, there's no narrator. We're basically letting the people who were living through this bizarre story tell it. And they're really good at doing so, and they're very colorful characters, which I think is really a key ingredient to having a good documentary. And so we didn't really do any reenactments or anything like that. We captured it as it was happening, and all the drama and all the funny moments.
You had to pay then NBC for the usage of some footage, I would assume.
NBC was actually very generous and let us use the footage without charging us. Major League Baseball, that was another story. That was actually about a third of our budget was the footage from Major League Baseball.
And what was the budget?
It was approximately $200,000.
Fantastic.
Thanks. I mean, it was like, there were so many times where we ran out of money, and it was like, God, will this project ever get completed? And, I just, at the last minute, an investor would come through and give us a check just to keep the thing going along. And so, we thank God that we're actually in theaters now, and that's the most amazing thing, is to be sitting in a theater. I've gotten the chance to go to a lot of the screenings, and hearing the audience laughing from beginning to end, it's amazing.
One of the things that I really loved about it is the way it plays, even if you know the ending, and I really had kind of forgotten what the ending was like.
Right.
But there's a suspense that's built up.
Yeah.
And you've done a beautiful job of building suspense throughout it. And also, one time you're kind of for this guy, and then the next time you're kind of, he's a jerk,
right.
and you keep switching loyalties back and forth. I think that's really brilliant, the way you put it together.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I don't see why a documentary should be any different from, a narrative film, any feature film, where, the audience needs to be engaged, and you want to keep them on their toes and make it a really fun experience to watch the movie. So, I wanted to infuse it with suspense and humor, and maybe not make it as straightforward as you might expect. And the way the story developed itself, there were lots of twists, turns, and surprises, and so we were fortunate as far as that goes. This is something where you don't script it. With a documentary, whatever happens, happens. And fortunately, not only did we have great characters, but a lot of interesting things developed along the way.
Did you have to pay the two principal people, the two guys?
No, that's another great thing about documentary, is generally the cast works for free. But no, fortunately, as far as Alex Popov, he was the plaintiff in the case, the guy originally. Whether it's a catch or not, I still don't know to this day. But he had the ball in his glove at the beginning. He he really saw this as kind of his path to victory, and he had all these witnesses that came forward for him, and he knew that he had that evidence in the Keppel tape, and even Patrick Hayashi was supposedly bit a kid out in the stand. So I think he thought, slam dunk case, I'm going to make millions. So a film that follows me along the way will be a great thing. And then things sort of moved in different directions, but so he had no need to be paid. He was being paid just by the fact that there was going to be a movie made following his story.
As you were making the documentary Up for Grabs, did you have a loyalty one way or the other, or were you kind of pulling for one guy more than the other?
That's a good question. At the beginning, I actually have to admit, I was kind of leaning in one direction.
Which?
I have to admit, I was kind of pulling for Alex. Because when I first saw the Keppel tape, I was like, oh my God, he must have been beaten up and mugged, and the ball stolen from him. What a sad story, and how sad it is that it's come to this, that people would do that at a ball game. But then the more I looked into it, the more people I talked to, I started to question some of those assumptions. So, my process of discovery, I try to reflect that in the film, the way the story is told. And I wasn't clearly rooting for one guy versus another by the end of it. And I think that's, hopefully that's the experience the audience has too. As you were saying, you kind of look at it one way and then it sort of shifts a little bit.
As a broadcaster, one element of it that I thoroughly enjoyed, Michael, was how these broadcasters had to get up there and with a straight face cover this story. I could
Right.
never have covered that story. I would have been cracking up. I could never have gotten through it. I mean, this in the dictionary, under absurd would be these two guys.
Yeah, we call it a true tale of absurdity. And yeah, I mean, that was one of the funny things about it to me, was that there were all the media people were covering it with a straight face, as you say, and it was taken so seriously. And I always felt that it was bizarre and absurd that there was so much over a baseball, so many things going on in the world that were obviously so much more significant, and the fact that this baseball would affect so many people's lives and would get so much attention just seemed out of proportion to me. But then, the reporters, they serve as good commentators in the film, because they can step back and, when they're not doing their reports, which is when I was talking to them, they could really tell you what they thought about the whole thing. So that added something for me.
One thing that concerns me, I guess I should use the word concern, is that this whole thing being magnified in a documentary certainly isn't going to do anything to enhance our worldwide image, is it?
Yeah, I mean, we're having fun with this. I don't think anyone's going to see this film and go, oh, things are terrible in America. The fact that they would spend all their time on a baseball fight. But, this is a satire. This is just something that people will laugh. I mean, they'll cringe, too, because, it is sort of ridiculous that we've come to the point where, first of all, that a baseball can be worth millions of dollars, let alone that people behave in these ways. But all along, this was a comedy as far as we were concerned. So I don't think anyone's going to have to point the finger at America. I mean, we're not perfect. America's a great country, but nobody's perfect. So I think that's really what we're showing in this film.
Yes, I think the final line is this a great country or what?
Well, I definitely think you could, after the title Up for Grabs, you could follow it with Only in America.
Yes. Now, the two guys, have you seen them or heard from them lately?
I've been in touch with Patrick Hayashi a few times, and he's got a sense of humor about the whole thing. I think he's happy that he's been able to move on with his life. He's kind of a quiet, shy, introverted kind of guy. And, when this happened, I mean, he was really excited that he got his hands on the ball, but I think as soon as he realized just how big a deal this was going to be and all the cameras on him, and I think he was starting to regret it right from the get-go. And then here he is in the middle of this big conflict, and he had to get a lawyer. So, he's at this point, he can kind of look back at it and laugh. I haven't really had much communication with Alex Popov since the completion of the film, but I did get a cease and desist letter at one point. So apparently he didn't like the movie.
Because it shows him the truth of him.
Right. I think, when he was going through it, when Alex was going through all this, I think, he just maybe got a little bit of tunnel vision, and he was so focused on, his eyes are on the prize. He's going to get this ball, whatever it's going to take. And I've never met anyone more determined than Alex. And, he's sort of an aggressive guy. And I think now he's had a chance to step back. And, after seeing the film, maybe he's like, God, I let things go a little too far. And everyone can understand how that could happen. I mean, when you come so close to owning something like this, I mean, it is one of a kind, and it could change your life to have that amount of money in your pocket. So, it's unfortunate that happens, but I think anyone can understand how it would.
And once again, the lawyers are the big winners.
It's always the way, isn't it? That's why, my lesson from all this is just, find a way to settle if you can. It's just, all you're going to do is make the attorneys that much richer. So it's like, find a way to get along with this whole thing.
Do you have another project in mind?
Yeah, we've got a couple things in the works, and that's the great thing about this is that now I'm actually making films for a living, and hopefully I get to keep doing this because this was always my dream. But we've got a project that's related to psychopathy, which is a psychological disorder where people are born without a conscience and behave in very bad ways. And so we're in development on that. And then there's also something related to mascots. So there'll be a lot of built-in humor with that one.
And both documentaries, of course.
Yeah, the former one, the one on psychopathy, that we might do that as a hybrid. We might have a scripted character that runs through it that will help demonstrate the disorder. So a little mixture of the two there.
Michael, that's just great. I couldn't be more pleased for you.
Oh, thanks so much. It's very nice of you.
So, since you have other projects, I have to assume that maybe we'll have a chance to talk with you again in the future.
I would love that. I hope we can do that. So thanks a lot for having me. But yeah, I think a lot of people just probably turned away from it after a while. It's like,
Yeah, and I honestly did not remember how it turned out, and I
Yeah.
was glad I didn't.
yeah, that definitely.
Yeah.
If you don't remember it, or if you never knew, I think it's better as far as watching the film goes. 'Cause
Yeah.
there is suspense there. I mean, I figured there would be because I knew that this fight was going to go all the way. I could tell. I just had this feeling from when I saw how far apart they were.
Yeah.
And I mean, Alex, as determined as he is, I just felt like this is going all the way. And
And
since
that
we
bit
didn't know
with
the outcome,
the girlfriend who had to be,
yeah, the mystery woman. I don't know.
okay, all right, okay. Yeah, there you go. Michael, how did you come to be involved with this?
Well, I live in San Francisco where this all happened.
That's fine, okay,
Do that one more time.
all right. Michael, how did you come to be involved in this?
Well, I live in San Francisco where this all took place, and basically.
That's good, okay, all right. Did you recreate any of the footage?
No, we just captured the real thing as it was happening, and we were there.
Okay. Did you have to pay the NBC station for the use of their footage?
No, actually, NBC was really generous and allowed us to use all that footage.
Okay. Let's see. As you were making the film, were you pulling for one guy more than the other?
I have to admit, there was a little of that going on when we first started on the project, and then loyalties shifted.
Okay, that's good. One of the things that this movie does is, even though some people may remember the outcome, it builds suspense as it goes along. You're really wondering how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, that was one thing. Who knew what the judge would rule, or even if there was going to be a trial in the first place? But
Okay. I wasn't expecting to laugh as much as I did.
oh,
No, that's fine. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. As a broadcaster, I don't believe I could ever have covered that without just cracking up throughout the whole thing. I could never have done it with a straight face.
well, as we were shooting the film, I had to hold back from laughing many times myself.
Okay. Have you had any contact with these men recently?
I've been in touch with Patrick Hayashi recently. We've spoken a few times. He's got a sense of humor about the whole thing at this point. And then Alex, no, I haven't heard from him in over a year now.
Okay. That probably will cover us. Fred, you're real good at,
Like this plane. that's
Yes.
on the way.
Southwest on the way to Love Field. Okay. How much did it cost?
It was about $200,000 to make the film.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can cover that documentary. And okay.
One thing that was very interesting is they had to stop the film, start it several times. I don't know if that question will get you into that part because he had some fairly good statements in there.
Yes. Maybe if I ask what problems.
Difficulties.
Yeah, okay. What particular problems did you have making up for Grabs?
Well, I mean, for one, I had no background as a filmmaker, and I had to go out and get people to write checks of, you know, their hard-earned cash to help make the film. And, you know, this was before documentaries really had much of a market, especially for, you know, theatrical release. This was before Spellbound had come out. It was before, you know, any of the Michael Moore big hits. So, you know, we really had to convince people, first of all, that I could make a film, and also that, you know, there would be a theatrical release for a documentary. So we just, you know, oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
I was hanging by a thread. I was sleeping on my sister's couch. I mean, I just had to survive. And there were many times where I really didn't think the film was going to get completed. And but fortunately, we persevered, and, you know, a check would arrive just in time to keep the machine going. And in the end, I mean, it's just amazing to actually see it on the big screen now, and you know, hearing the audience laughing in the theater. It's just, I thank God that we were able to get through it and be here today.
Any new projects?
Yes, okay. Do you have any new projects?
Yeah, we're actually in the middle. We have to do post-production on a basketball film that we made following the Stanford men's basketball team. And then actually we're going to make a film on psychopathy, which is a psychological disorder that results in people, you know, acting in very bad ways, lying, cheating, manipulating.